Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Lethal Venom podcast. This is a podcast where I talk about anything I want with the honest to God truth, no lies told. Today, I am joined by Kerry Blaser. She is going to be telling us a little bit about her book and a little bit about her backstory. So, Kerry, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me and giving me this wonderful opportunity to share my book and my history and everything.
So, if you could just tell me a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your background.
So I was raised in Southern California, about 15 minutes away from where the Bachelor Mansion is, to give you an idea. Um, and I had a traumatic childhood. Both my parents struggled, and they got a divorce when I was 5 years old in 1975. And I stayed in that same town. Got a job young, hot dog on a stick, making lemonade and corn dogs. And then I went on to college. I studied Chinese and religious studies at the University of California at Santa Barbara. And in 1993 in Tibet, I met my future husband. And we were married for 10 years and had three kids. And I've been divorced about 20 years now. I had a long career in corporate America. I spent about 20 years at a health insurance company before getting laid off in 2023. And that takes me to my book. My book is a story of how I healed from my childhood trauma 10 years ago. So my birthday was last Wednesday, June 25th. I turned 55.
A happy belated birthday.
It's like you keep eating and drinking water. You're like, how? Oh, that's how that works. You get older. I keep trying to tell my older daughter that I have natural blonde highlights, but she reminds me that it's gray, and I don't want to believe it. I just don't, because it's free, and I'm like, okay. Anyway, so on my 45th birthday, my mom passed away. And that was the day that my intuition told me it's time to heal from your childhood trauma and time to accept your psychic gifts. So my book goes really over the past 6 years, because that was the most difficult time, and the men that I attracted into my life to showing myself are included in the book. But it takes me from my darkest moment to my most illuminating experiences about how I learned to transform my emotional pain into personal wisdom. And it was treacherous and illuminating, but yeah, hard, hard process.
Could you tell me a little bit more about your childhood? It said that you suffered from mental health and you also had a suicide attempt. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so my childhood, I guess my parents both had traumatic childhoods. And so they had generational trauma that they hadn't healed from that they brought in to our family. Like my mom's mother, to give you an example of how much secrets were kept in my mom's family. My grandmother gave birth when she was 16, and my great grandmother kept the child as her own and didn't tell the child until after my grandma passed away, and she passed away in her 80s. So you can imagine that if you can keep a secret about a child you see every day in your life for, 65 years almost, that there's some problems in the family. And so there's a lot of anxiety in that family, a lot of keeping secrets in that family. And then my dad's family, my grandparents got divorced in the 50s, and then my grandma got pregnant with another child, another boy, and then got back with my grandpa. So, those were, kind of challenging situations. And then they came, my mom was 4 years older than my dad, which, again, atypical. My dad is affluent. And so we moved into this town. And my mom is an alcoholic and my dad's a workaholic. And so I took on trauma from both sides. And I guess I had rejected myself so much. This statue that I saw a few weeks ago on Instagram, like, really just captured how much I internalized my parents' self-rejection. Like, they just rejected themselves and projected onto me. And I just took as I'm just the problem. I guess if I'm constantly in trouble and getting yelled at and I'm just a kid, like, what's wrong with me? Right. So this statue, it's called Grief. And it's a head, and it's pretty simple. And then it shows the arms, and then it shows the legs, and the whole body. You see through the whole body, and then you can see like the ocean and the islands in the background. So it's like grief. It's like there's just nothing left. And that's how my life was. Like, I've had a hard time connecting with friends, making friends my whole life, maintaining relationships. I didn't know how to be healthy in my femininity. I didn't know how to forgive. My mom was never wrong. She used shame and guilt to control everybody. And I didn't spend that much time around my dad because he was working so much. And by the time I was 11, the nights I would spend over there, he would leave my brother and I home alone to spend the night at his girlfriend's house. So, it was challenging. And I brought all of that trauma into my marriage, and so did my ex-husband, who's Israeli and was fought in the first Intifada, kill all Jews in Israel and in the early 80s and early late 80s, early 90s. And my brain, my intuition told me it's time to heal. I'm like, well, yeah, it would be nice to not have 4 to 7 migraines per week. It would be nice to be able to go out and exercise like a normal person. Like I was just like in my house, started learning how to like go into my emotional pain and then come out of it, like surf the waves of life, not just repress it and ignore the pain like I had done, like it's just rejecting myself. Let's start like processing that pain and get some of my center back so I can have something to connect to life with. So 6 years ago, in April of 2019, my youngest daughter, who's now 22, had an eating disorder. And she learned that eating disorders come from a maternal wound. So she was in a residential facility, and I went to visit her. And she, in our therapy session with her dad, said that blamed me. Says my eating disorder is your fault, mom, and blamed me fully for it. And I tried to say, look, I ain't perfect, but we have a lot of problems in this family. So this is a family dynamic. But they just kept hitting me harder and harder and harder. That was all my fault. And and on the drive home, my headspace started getting darker and darker and darker as I like internalized them blaming me for, because she had learned that from the therapist, right? So, um, when I got home, my brain told me that my children would be better off with a dead mother than a live one. So I took all the tramadol that I had, I mean, the trazodone, Klonopin, Soma, and Ambien, and went upstairs and fell asleep like that. I mean, I was just done. I was like 48, almost 49 years old. I was just friggin' done. And my older daughter, who was 18 at the time, found me the next morning. We were supposed to go see my youngest daughter at the residential facility, and she got me to the hospital and saved my life. So that's kind of the backstory, and that's kind of the beginning of the book. I started 10 years ago, but quickly go to the suicide attempt and forward is and that's when I learned how to really turn my emotional wounds into wisdoms. That's when really I got going on how does healing work, how do the laws of physics explain how explain our emotions and why our lives are planned such, how does shamanism and psychology align. That's when I got into all that.
Was writing the book difficult for you to do, or was it easy to kind of explain and tell people your story and be able to share it out there?
I say it wasn't easy. Like it didn't just go, oh, here it is. No. Once like I was ready. So first in the book, the first thing I really wrote was the email to the Dean of Public Safety to explain how the fire academy instructors are seem to be sleeping with a lot of women, and yet they have an oath of office to protect women, and casual sex hurts women. So what are we doing? you know so that kind of got me in the writing thing, and that was April of last year. It took me about 2 weeks to craft that and get it out. And but then after that, it like really started flowing out of my heart, and I just started letting it out. But I had two rules. I had to, okay, I can let it out on the page, but I cannot disparage anybody else, and I cannot, I guess two rules. I cannot speak for anybody else. So in letting it out, and I can't do that, all the problems I had to own. Like if this problem happened, well, how am I culpable? And sure, the other person had their part, but I can't speak for them and I can't disparage them. So I got to own my crap. And the writing helped me own my own crap so much, helped me to see like, wow, I was really, oh yeah, that was really my fault. Oh, I really did that too. Oh, darn, that was me. So seeing it on the page really helped me go, oh yeah, that was me. Like with a suicide attempt, my ex-husband, when I was in the psych ward afterwards, because when you attempt suicide, you go to the hospital and they settle you, make sure that you're medically safe. Then you go to the psych ward, and then when you're psychologically safe, they send you home. So in the psych ward, I was talking to my ex-husband and he told me that I should be punished for my suicide attempt. And I would tell that story like, oh, what a jerk, he's such an ass, he doesn't even compassion for me. Well, he didn't try to kill me. Like I tried to punish myself so badly that I tried to, kill myself. Like I was punishing myself way worse than him. So who the fuck am I to complain about him when I'm punishing, you know what I mean? Like owning my crap. That's what I meant. So I didn't see that until I wrote the book. And that's like how helpful it was for me to write the book. So whether you write a book or you don't want to write a book, journaling, art, like getting it out, I highly recommend that. It's very helpful.
I also recommend writing too. I do some writing myself and writing my own story and just kind of writing it out, even if it's one sentence or if it's 20 pages, it helps relieve some of the trauma that you've dealt with and it helps get some of your thoughts and feelings out on paper. Now, people don't have to read it. It could just be for you and yourself only. But being able to write it out on paper and say, okay, this is how I'm feeling. It helps a lot. I know some people might think that it doesn't, but it actually does help getting some of the
Yeah.
emotions out on paper. I noticed in your book that you focus predominantly on men who have acted as heroes in your life, and you have particularly said that Justin Waller, who people don't know, is a former FBI agent, and his
That's not, oh, Justin Waller isn't. That the FBI did somebody else. That Justin Waller is Andrew Tate's best friend.
okay, so were they inspirations for the book?
Yeah, I mean, so I didn't expect for Andrew Tate to come into my personal life. Like I was 52, it's not like I live in California, it's like that's not it wasn't part of my plan, right? But in June of 2022, I was struggling with the first guy in my book and to understand him sexually. Like I had never knowingly interacted with a man who is like having sleeping with other women, like a player. You want to call him a player, a man who regularly spends time with and sleeps with multiple women. That's not a reality I knew that I was ever in until Tim. So I had a lot of questions about male sexuality. And I was watching all different kinds of YouTube channels. And one of them I was watching was Fresh and Fit, which is kind of the red hot center of red pill of one man of, high value. We're high value men, so we get multiple women. That's the red hot center of that podcast. And so I saw Justin on there just two times. On the second time, my intuition said, ask him your question. Now I didn't even did I know that Andrew Tate was his best friend? That I probably not because that wasn't my focus at all. So I reached out and he got back to me with a voice memo in under 10 minutes. I think he was in France racing Lamborghinis. It's like, yeah, let's talk, and then we DM some over the next 2 months. And then when Andrew got canceled on social media in 2022, in August 2022, a couple weeks after, I could see how upset Justin was. So I reached out with some emotional support and he got right back to me. And that's when his heart opened to me. And as a woman, I mean, that's women's work is emotional intimacy, is the emotional work. And so the heart, that's where you go for emotional work. So, energetically with my shamanic, my intuitive gifts, I'm kind of, oh, yeah, he needs some rebalancing. Okay. And I went to sleep. I woke up the next morning and Andrew Tate's soul was hanging out in my house. And so and I'm like, okay, I get and what I saw was okay, Justin has a codependency with Andrew, and so I have to address that codependency, some similar childhood trauma they had, one reason they're connected, to help Justin balance out his heart. I wasn't thinking, Andrew Tate and all the Andrew Tate, I don't need to explain, right? He's Andrew Tate. So I helped Andrew and then I continued to help Justin for another month. And then I attracted the first firefighter. And through this process, I began to see, okay, hang on a second. I hear all these women, well, you just want to find a nice guy. You want to find a nice guy. I'm like, that's not what's happening for me. What's happening for me is I attract men into my life and then I heal and I get better. And I take every opportunity I can to self-reflect and see where I'm making mistakes and see where I need to improve. And they're mirroring my wounds back to me. I mean, that's having man after man after man that have similar wounds, all six of them come into my life, like really showed me how the universe is a mirror and we have mirror neurons. And that's how we learn. Like, as children, we mirror our parents and that's how we learn. And so that's how generational trauma is passed down. Like my parents, my dad especially, very anxious, very negative. And anytime there was a problem, it was lots of anxiety. Oh my God. So I learned, oh shit. Just mirroring my parents, and that's how I learned to hate myself and that I'm the problem. I thought I was the problem my whole life. But wounds are inverted wisdom. I'm not the problem. I'm the solution. I have a healthy open heart now and I can help other people have a healthy open heart. And so I had to learn. I used to have a fear of men that I addressed with Tim, the first one. I had a fear of being sexually assaulted, and I had in my shadow, my unconscious beliefs that I'm replaceable, and so that's a wound that my soul was showing to me through these men. Like if one of these men, I like Carrie, but I have all these other women, then obviously I'm replaceable, right? So for to show that to me, these men like showed me that part of myself. And so when I learned that the people that I've been fearing my whole life are the ones that I need to interact with to make myself better, changed my whole worldview. I said, oh, I don't need a man. I'll just provide for myself. I don't need a man. I don't need a man. Yeah, I need men. So yeah.
Kind of an unrelated. Has Andrew Tate been? Because for people that don't know who he is, and I think if you don't know who he is, I think you live under a rock. But has the media portrayed him as a different person than who he truly is?
So I was DMing Justin on Instagram. I never talked or DM'd Andrew Tate. I talked to his soul. So, but that is really his person. And same, like when I was showing him his wounds, like that's my job. My job is to ask him a question. So here's some questions that I asked Andrew. I'm like, okay, why was it necessary for you personally to stomp around the globe screaming, I'm a man when you're the 4-time UFC world champion? Why was it necessary for the universe to turn up the volume on your healing message so loudly they had to be canceled on social media and had your payment processing center taken away? Who emasculated you as a child? Like, very direct, but that's Andrew. So that and he like within 2 minutes he's like, okay, I'll just tell you because he's a competitor. And when a man is, I don't know about women, but I see this in men. When men are like competitors, they know when they've lost, and it's like respect for the game. Like, okay, you win, I'll tell you. I'm like, okay. He told me his most painful childhood memory and like a ton of emotional pain, like maternal pain, came out of his root chakra and came to me. But then I sent it to heaven because that's what I do as a shaman. Is I'm not gonna internalize his negativity like I did from my parents. I know better now. I'm like, okay, that ain't me. Keep going. Keep going. Don't attach to me. But um, but I learned so much from Andrew. I was able to see myself so much. Like, this is one thing that I learned from the second firefighter, the fire captain. He told me that a man will open his heart to a woman when her love is stronger than his brute. I was like, okay, well, let me apply that to Andrew and me. So my capacity for love and compassion as a healer is stronger than Andrew Tate's capacity for brute strength as a fighter. I was like, okay, well, that helps me a lot every day because like I don't have individual clients. Like, okay, I got to write a book. I need to get the book globally. I know I need to do that. And now I'm working on a film adaptation and a global production company that can handle an Andrew Tate. But if Andrew hadn't helped me see myself, then I would be super insecure. That's not me. That's not what that I can't, what? That's not me. But now I'm like, okay, that me. That's me. But it took, this has been 3 years of working on myself, but that's why I call them my heroes because they helped me see myself. Now, did Andrew Tate treat women inappropriately? I mean, he's admitted that he has, but I'm not judge or jury, so I don't know, like, did he do it? Did he not do it? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's kind of like you're just going off what he said, just going
Yeah,
off
like
his word.
and like, and I had to really, because, I didn't tell anybody for like a year because it was, I mean, then he went in solitary confinement and I supported him there. Like, I wasn't telling anybody. Like, I'm in California, like, I want to stay alive, right?
But
So, and then when I told my kids a year later, they freaked out. Why would you help him? And then I'm like, okay, well, isn't a more emotionally balanced Andrew Tate, because that's what I did, better for everybody? Well, yeah, but why do you help? Aren't we a collective of souls, like all having a human experience, my children, who you're all super spiritual? But Andrew, he triggers you because triggers are your healing friend, not your healing foe. And so I, try to teach my daughters. And this is what I realized, like, I'll learn it and then I bring it to my family and then I perfect it and then I can bring it to everybody else. So I had to really teach him, say, look, he's showing you that you have a fear of men and you have a fear of being sexually assaulted. What are the chances that you're ever going to meet this man? Well, small. Okay, so why don't you heal? And like, he's actually helping you, showing you this part of yourself, pain to the surface. Let's deal with it. Stop repressing it. And so one thing that Andrew Tate's soul and my soul are doing together, and it kind of like teaches people a lesson about how souls communicate and work together. Like, physicists have proven that we all have energy bodies and we're all communicating through our heart space, like shamans have been saying forever. So Andrew Tate's soul and my soul talk and we plan things. So one thing our souls are planned is that he triggers the fear of men and the fear of being sexually assaulted, globally, millions of people. And then my book comes in and shows people how to heal that wound. So there are no like bad souls. People take on the dark because we have to see the dark, we have to, you don't know the light until you see the dark. Like, you can't see a star in the city. You see a star in the mountains because the sky is dark. And that's how you can, appreciate the full value of the star, because of the opposite is they're showing it to you. So, yeah.
your daughters fit in the my generation of Gen Z where they judge everything. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter because that's just how my generation is. We live
Yeah.
in such a society now that everyone is so judgy and so picky. Like I was having a conversation with a guest recently about people are so judgmental. I mean, they get mad about this kind of scissors you're wearing or like using.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I've always tell people it doesn't matter what you do. Their opinion does not matter. I've told them if you want to believe in this, believe in it. It's yourself. Who cares? Who gives a shit? It doesn't matter if it's bad. That's their decision. Like I have a lot of people that do stuff that I don't particularly like. I don't
Mm.
shun them for it. I don't see them differently for it. I don't judge them for it because that's
Yeah.
what they do. And I'm pretty sure people judge me for what I do. I mean, that's just normal. Nowadays, it's normal.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
You have a mentioned that you had a master's degree in East Asian religious studies.
Mhm.
What was the most interesting thing to learn from that, and what made you want to go into that degree?
Well, I guess the thing that I didn't learn is that enlightenment is an emotion, but I'll get back to that in a second. So what happened is I was going to be a speech therapist. And so I got into UCSB as a junior, but because I was new there, the electives that I still needed to fill, I was like the last person that got to choose. So I had to choose from what was available. And what was available, one was the history of Zen Buddhism. I'm like, let me check. Okay, that interesting, right? I'll check it out. And the professor was a French guy who had learned Japanese by studying under the covers with his flashlight because his dad wouldn't let him. Like, he was just analytical and lived with the monks and had so many like real stories. He didn't, oh, Buddhism, we're all enlightened. No, he would tell stories about how Buddhist monks were celibate, but not with little boys. Like, he told the truth. Okay, so I respected the man greatly. I'm like, I want to study that. Like, he's doing analysis on economics and politics and culture and society, and I just love to analyze. And high school was boring for me. It was remember, just memory, and then tell us what you remembered. Well, I got C's and B's in high school, but I got 4.0 with a master's degree in Chinese, and I learned classical Chinese and translated 12th century Taoist texts. But this is because I wasn't engaged. It was boring for me. So I'm like, yeah, whatever. I just got a job, Um, so oh, and now I forgot where was I going with that. You asked me and I forgot where I was going with that. Darn. What did you, sorry, you asked me what did you want me to talk about? I'm sorry.
I could probably fill in. I really appreciate what you said about the you weren't associated with it because last year and I majored in journalism for people that don't know. I majored in journalism at
Oh,
Auburn and I went to a presentation. I was in a newspaper writing class. I think it was
mm,
news writing it was called, and or it might have been community journalism. And we went to a thing in Montgomery. It was a thing that we had to pertain to a group of people, and it was I said in school people, because we were talking about writing and how people are more passionate about if they are better writers if they write something they're passionate about. If you gave
mm,
someone a topic, and this was me in high school as well, that if you gave them a topic, say that you had to say, trying to think, write about the Revolutionary War. You know, someone that's not a pro at it, that doesn't care about it, is going to have a hard time writing a paper about it because they don't are not
yeah.
particularly interested in the topic. They don't know anything about it. But then I said that but if you gave them something, say that they're a pro crocheter and they love to crochet, and you said, write me a paper about crochet, the ideas flow like that.
Yeah.
And I had actually someone in the audience, the people said, you know, that what he said is real true. And she told me that she remembered that she was teaching kids something and that she gave the kids a free pass and to write about whatever they wanted. And said that this girl was real passionate. This little girl was passionate about some kind of, I can't remember what it was, but was passionate about something. And she was able to write just quickly about it. And she said that, you know, people are more interested in writing what they interest them and that it comes flowing. So when you said that I wasn't interested in that in high school and all that, I thought, oh, that reminded me of that. And
Oh, yeah.
I've
Well, I
had,
had an experience in college in my English class. When they wanted me to write about family, I went back to the me that all the grief. There's nothing that what you what? I had nothing to say. But when I could write whatever I wanted, then I went off about dropping the bomb and the Japanese internment camps and no
yep.
German. Like I went off because I could access that part of myself. But the
Mhm.
parts of myself that were about family, I had rejected completely. So I had
Right.
no access. But now I remember what you asked me is what I learned like the most from that. So I didn't plan it, but I liked it because it engaged my mind and my heart and it opened me and I love to travel. And so I studied abroad in China in 92 as undergraduate and went to several Buddhist monasteries, like mountains. And I went to one where it was the season where they have this big festival once a year. And it was like so many people there. And it was phenomenal. Then I graduated, I went back in 93 and I went to Tibet. And that's when I met my ex-husband, who's Israeli. So that degree, just like that was my next step. It pulled me into life. I was there in Tibet in 93. So the Dalai Lama is reincarnated, right? So there's a Dalai Lama, and then there's four types or sects of Tibetan Buddhism. And the head of each type of those four types is also reincarnated. In 1992 was the first time the Chinese government allowed Tibet to choose the next reincarnated monk for the head of those four, the top of the four. He was 7 years old in 1993, and I met a woman who's gonna, oh, I'm going to see this monk. You want to come? Okay, cool. Got in a little bus, went over there, met him. And then he escaped Tibet when he was 14 over the Himalayas in November, and he did a TED talk when he was 20. I mean, now he's like probably almost 40 because that was, just a couple of years ago. Well, 30 years ago. But so all that happened, and I went to Israel, and so it opened up this whole world. I got my kids from that. But how did it help me now? So I applied to get a PhD, but I didn't get in. And I was going to go work with the nuns in China to learn their wisdom, which hadn't really come out. But wisdom is feminine. Men download universal knowledge like Stephen Hawking's, Einstein, the table of like, all the chemicals and stuff. And women download the wisdom because that's the relationships. So, and what no one taught me was the wisdom I was seeking from the nuns was also in my heart. But that is kind of the 30-year journey that I went on because it was 1997. I didn't get into graduate school and I got pregnant with my son. I have a boy and then two girls um, that same month. And so, but one thing I learned, yes, I learned history, I learned culture, I learned different things. I learned what they thought about women. I learned that. But what I never learned is that enlightenment is an emotion. And that I learned from modern doctors because they know we have energy bodies and then they measure when our energy is at different levels. And that's our emotions. Like shame is 20 hertz, love is 200 hertz, and enlightenment is 700 to 1,000 hertz. And I had to ask myself, well, why is it why doesn't don't Buddhists describe it as an emotion? It's part of our healthy, normal emotional range. They're men. So I'm like, okay, there's part of the patriarchy that they call like a state of being. So one, when I experience enlightenment, the man or the men that I'm connected to benefit from that, and the collective benefits from that. Because the more I open my soul, the more I open up everybody else's soul, and then we all benefit from me downloading the wisdom. And in physics, it's called morphic resonance. Where you download wisdom, then it goes to other people. It's fascinating. Like in this book called Morphic Resonance, they show the story of like men wanted to run the mile under 4 minutes, and they tried for a long time until one guy figured it out. And then the next year, 500 men did it because the wisdom was in the collective. So does that make sense?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
does.
Yeah.
Earlier you had mentioned that you were in negotiations for with a studio for a film adaptation of your book. A fun question: who would you want to star in the film?
Well, it's animated. And I love that it's animated because then like with Tim, we were in the parking lot outside of Yoga because I never went on a date with any of these guys. Even the guy from high school, I wouldn't let he was the ASB president. I wouldn't even let him talk to me in high school. I'm like, no, you stay away. Stay away. Uh-uh. But now I got him in a lineup with Andrew Tate, which is saying something. He's the former FBI who's current head of global security at a major company. So yeah, and he got that job that he has right now the month before I reached out to Justin. And it's a company that has to do with the internet. So it seemed like I'm working in lockstep with someone, right? That's what it seemed like. And so I was like, well, but I didn't know who. Well, and I didn't know that my guy from high school that he was I didn't even remember his last name. I had to go look up his last name last November, and I looked him up, and then I saw that where he works, and I saw, oh, former FBI, okay, whatever. And I just reached out because I needed to reach out. But that was November, and then Andrew's court case got dismissed in December. And that same day that Andrew's court case was dismissed, that morning, my intuition was like, you might want to talk to a lawyer about Andrew. Only time ever I was intuitively guided to talk to a lawyer, which I didn't hire a lawyer, and I don't believe Andrew would ever hurt me. And then the same day that he came back in the country in February was the first day I talked to someone at a traditional publishing company about publishing my book traditionally. So it was like, Andrew and I are still like working in lockstep. I'm like, okay, I have to accept this. We're still, and like, I'm protected now. So Andrew's coming back in the country. Like 3 months before Andrew comes back in the country, I reach out to my guy from high school who was with the FBI for 21 years, and the FBI does internet censorship. And who's powerful enough to do all those things to Andrew? Like these are just questions I have. Now I haven't talked to any of them. So I don't know, but we'll see what happens. But that's kind of my interesting story of that in the film. So the film, yeah, they will. Oh, so like Tim and I were in the parking lot and our souls lit up for each other. Like I literally saw his soul around him lit up, never seen it again. Like, wow, they can do that in animation really well. They can show the wisdom. And I also quote a lot of like, Dr. Gabor Mate, Jordan Peterson, Carl Jung. They can show the quotes if it's animated. They can, do a resemblance of Andrew and Justin. And then if these other guys want to, give their names, and they could be in there too. So I'm really liking the animated because they can do so much more with it.
Oh, I love animated films. I'm a sucker for those. I'm gonna be 50 years old and we'll still watch Finding Nemo. I don't care. I
Oh
don't
yeah,
care. Which
yeah.
hopefully hopefully I'll have kids at that time. So I mean, I'll have a reason to watch it. But if I don't, I'll be like, I'm
I
just gonna
love
watch it.
it. Like, well, Finding Nemo came out when my kids were little. My son was born in 98, so they
I
were
was
all,
born in 2002, so I think I was
oh,
one when it came out. Yeah, I was really little. Um,
you're
to
the
wrap
same
things
age as
up,
my youngest. Yeah.
oh really?
Yeah, 22. She's almost 23. Yeah.
Well, I turned 23 in January, so I'm 23
Oh, okay.
now. So,
Yeah.
to wrap things up, if people would like to find you and learn more about you, where all can they find you?
I have a website is kerryblaser.com. My book, My Inner Heroine, Exploring Feminine Pain, is on Amazon. Kerry Blaser, I'm on Instagram. I'm also Red Pill Shaman on Instagram. And I have a YouTube channel, Kerry Blaser, that over time I'll build out with more videos about instructional for healing trauma and such.
Well, Carrie, thank you so much for joining us today, and I love your story. I think being able to have kind of a little bit of relationship with Andrew Tate was very, very
Oh,
interesting.
I needed it. He told me your voice is louder than mine. I'm like, I gotta do a lot of podcasts. I gotta get talking. If I'm gonna talk more than that man, and he's younger than me, so I gotta get going.
Well, Carrie, thank you so much for joining us today, and I wish you the best of luck on what you're doing and keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
To follow me on social media platforms as well, you can follow me on Instagram and TikTok, Lethal Venom Podcast. I'm also on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at Noah's Podcast. On there, I just post behind the scenes stuff as well as updates on episodes as well as surveys. You can follow the Lethal Venom Podcast wherever you get your podcasts from. I'm on Spotify, Apple, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, YouTube, and Pandora, as well as other platforms as well. I'm technically everywhere, so just make sure to go find it wherever it is. Make sure to subscribe to it. I appreciate you all for listening and joining in today, and I'll catch you all in the next episode of Lethal Venom.